Good morning. The hour of 8 a.m. having arrived, the time established for the convening of the first extraordinary session of the 63rd Idaho Legislature, the House of Representatives will be in order.
I just want to let you know that this bill before us today does cover that and make sure that we are protected, and we're protecting the citizens, all citizens, even those that we are after in foreign countries, protecting their rights and under the Idaho state laws. So I stand for questions on that.
I felt that some of our members were being less than, well, quite frankly, I felt like they were lied to because they were told they couldn't amend the bill, and they could. And watching what's gone on since the session, it's been interesting to see how quick the response is from HHS in regards to what we can and cannot do with this bill.
This is still, to me, a case of the imaginary fears of state sovereignty and threats of rampant internationalism versus the security and stability of Idaho families and the welfare of Idaho children.
But I watched the press tear apart 9 members of my caucus and 9 members of his committee that were doing nothing more than what they thought was right, trying to protect the information of the people of Idaho. Now, is it important that deadbeat parents pay their bills? Exactly, it is, and we all believe that. But I have a real concern when we're sending information of any Idaho citizens to the Kingdom of the Netherlands, for crying out loud. It makes no sense to me.
All those in favor of introducing RS 23967, please say aye.
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 All those opposed?
No.
Representative Moore, would you like to be?
Please.
Yes, and the chair votes aye. Okay, so with that then, RS 23967 will be introduced, and we do not have any further items on our agenda.
So we will begin with RS, probably should put my glasses on, 23967.
Thank you for the opportunity to present House Bill 1. I am hopeful the information provided today makes it clear that House Bill 1 is good for Idaho. Most notably, this bill ensures parents are personally responsible and held accountable for the safety, well-being, and health of their children. It protects due process and ensures the protection of personal information from foreign governments.
It's very important legislation, and it deals with a tremendous amount of money. The problem, as I see it, and this is just my humble opinion, Director, is that if we would have had this information given to us at the beginning when we had our last committee hearing, it would have been very helpful. And as you well know, when legislators have to handle the money in the amounts that we have to handle and assume the responsibilities that legislators have, we're very careful. And occasionally we're very conservative, particularly when it's something we don't understand. Why wasn't this information given to us at the first hearing?
Director.
Madam Chair, Representative McDonald, in retrospect, there are a number of things we'd have done differently. No question. So part of me says, well, if we had known where we were going to end up, then we would have spent more hours in front of the committee than we did. We believed that we were conveying the message. However, as Representative Daly has pointed out, just because I say the words does not mean that you receive those words the same way that I'm speaking them. So we thought we covered the bases. We thought we had made it clear what the provisions were. Unfortunately, the sequence in which things flowed out blocked some folks from being able to receive the message. And, you know, I take responsibility for miscommunication. Our role is to make sure we're clear. And that's what we're doing now, is to make sure that everybody is very clear about what this is and what it isn't.
I was under the understanding that there was a federal law that was passed that said the states had to pass this. So is that right? Could you maybe clarify that for me, please?
Yes, Madam Chairman and Representative Perry, thank you very much for the question. Yes, the movement forward with the U.S. of 2008 is that we adopt the language in the standardized code, and that language includes the treaty. So yes, that's exactly what we're talking about. There really is no logical or way for us not to do that. It is something that we want. It's something that will benefit the state. And no, it isn't a choice for us to go forward without adopting this treaty and agreement. So thank you for that clarity.
And my concern is that these protection amendments that we've added, having not changed the original language of the first 31 pages of the bill, will be meaningless once this treaty is signed. Could you address the constitutional issues with this bill, please?
Director?
Madam Chair, Representative Scott, I am not a constitutional lawyer. I'm not a lawyer at all. So I really can't get into that conversation. We're not entering into the treaty. The United States of America entered into the treaty. Okay, we are using that treaty for the purpose of child support. So no, we didn't enter into the treaty, and that's no different than when I work with the Nez Perce tribe and I have agreements with them. I am not a sovereign. I can't negotiate a treaty, so I don't.
We may not question the facts of the case. We may not review the merits of the case. We're simply to enforce these. My question is, does Idaho bear any risk by being part of this treaty? And if it does, what do we do to mitigate those? And if it doesn't, why would the federal government feel it necessary to threaten us with up to $46 million of lost funding and lost child support enforcement tools?
We have the right to look at that order, and if it is incomplete or it makes no sense, then we have the right to intervene. Our Idaho court does. Our Idaho court does. And, you know, you may disagree, but we have to establish it here because I've already agreed through the amendments that I will register every foreign order with the Idaho courts. And if the Idaho court deems it to be unreasonable, then we're going to have a conversation. But remember, this is about money. This is about a payment of money for a support order for a child. We're not talking about how the child's going to be raised or any of those other questions. We're talking about, does the non-custodial parent owe the money to that household?
If we fail to pass this legislation, we can expect to see severe strains on already overburdened charitable services in addition to an increased need for public assistance. That's not good for Idaho, and it's not good for our families.
This is God's opinion of bribes. For the congregation of the hypocrite shall be desolate, and fire shall devour the houses of bribes. I don't want to be mixed up in a bribe.
Under the coercion of House Resolution 4980, which is the implementing legislation out of Congress, we're coercively here, and that ought to speak volumes to the demonic agenda behind the resolution itself. In the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson talks about pretended legislation and evidences of design to reduce us to absolute despotism. That's what House Resolution 4980 is.
I move that we send House Bill 1 to the floor with a do pass recommendation.
I'd like to make a substitute motion that we add an amendment that I have here for adding a sunset clause. I understand what you just said, but I would like to make the motion to add this sunset clause amendment to the bill.
We'll first vote on the substitute motion, which is to send her general orders.
5 to 12.
Okay, so the motion failed, so we're to the original motion, which is to send to the floor House Bill 1.
I do believe that these amendments we've added for protection for Idaho citizens, put at the end of the bill, after the verbatim language we've put in there, are put there for cover for the four legislators to change their votes on. I do believe that once the treaty...
I'm going to object to that.
We have an objection. Go ahead, state your objection.
That's an aspersion on the integrity of those of us who have been engaged in good faith to try to resolve an issue. And this has not been an easy issue, and we're not here to attack personalities in that manner.
Thank you.
That was not meant as an attack, and if I could finish.
Hold on just a moment. I think the point is well taken, is that we have to be real careful of how we're using our verbiage today, because it's not to find fault with each other over this process.
What I'm really just trying to say is I do believe that these legislators that are changing their vote honestly believe that these amendments they're written in good faith. They did this to protect the citizens of Idaho. But unfortunately, as soon as this treaty is ratified, those amendments don't mean squat.
Okay, the motion passes with 5 nays and 12 ayes. So with that, we will adjourn here shortly and go over to the House side, and as soon as it makes its way through the process, we'll have it on the floor, House Bill 1.
Let's stick to debating the bill. Let's not debate the motives of the individual members, their patriotism, their allegiance to the Constitution, or things of that manner. If you do, you will be called out of order.
History is going to show that all of us had a part in this, that our fingerprints were all over this, from the beginning to the end.
The House always does the right thing once it's tried everything else. So thank you to all who vote today for House Bill 1. And for those who cannot, I say this vote is truly a statement of values. Do you support kids and families, or do you support decisions based on fear and misinformation? Please think who you're supporting.
Mr. Speaker, how condescending for the federal government or the Uniform Law Commission to cavalierly dismiss Idaho's or any state sovereignty. By holding us hostage with our own tax dollars, they give us the quote-unquote choice to comply, and they call that state sovereignty. What a perversion of the concept. Giving someone a choice with a gun to their head does not respect their sovereignty.
Why, it's a papier-mâché horse with a placard around its neck. As it turns out, the papier-mâché is $100 bills. 46 million, and the placard says, "For the children." Our eyes are on the money. Our minds are on the children. We bring it in. Who cares what's inside? It's all about the money. It's all about the children.
But we are here, as the good gentleman from 2 indicated here, with a coercive gun to our head. And so I am concerned about that portion. However, under our public policy definition, we can look at that and say, to what extent will we enforce this order? That's different from looking at the merits of the order.
I don't like it when I'm told you need to make a decision because there's a gun put to your head. And that's what I feel like we're being put into a position. If we don't make the right decision, we're going to lose money. And the right decision might not be our decision, but it's the decision that the establishment wants or something beyond us wants.
We're all concerned they're going to take the money away. The courts have already ruled they can't do that. Now, I understand that our AG doesn't want to go down that road because he's concerned about a windmill in a ninth court, but I still don't think they can do that. It's blackmail. We've talked about guns to our heads, and today the best comment I heard was from the good lady from 33. What was it, punitive coercion? And we're all falling for it. This bill's going to pass. We're all sitting here hoping that everybody will shut up and sit down so we can take the vote and go home. Is that the right thing to do? If this is a stinking good idea, let the U.S. Senate go out and pass and make the treaty. They haven't done it for the last bunch of years because they don't have the support to do it. Otherwise, they would do it and we wouldn't have to worry about it. It wouldn't be our problem. So now they're going to have their hands clean because they're going to say, all you states did this, not us. I've talked too much. I'll sit down, but I want to make it clear I don't support this. I don't like dirty milk, and I don't think it's smart when we go down this road. And I hope that history again proves me wrong, and those of you that support this garbage, right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I don't believe that this bill is about gangsters, it's not about paper mache horses, and it's not about tainted milk. This is about children who need to have child support enforced so that they can go on and live happy and productive lives. This is a simple bill. It's always been a simple bill, and I will be supporting it, and I hope that you will too.
What if this happened? What if that happened? What if this happens? One of the things I'm constantly amazed in this process, in our judicial or our legislative process, is we seem to always find the what if. It's not what is, ladies and gentlemen, it's what is. What is, this is a system that's been working for many years. That's what is. It's not, the what if is hypothetical. The what is reality. Reality is very little changes today, except that we're trying to get it from nations versus only the 50 states. So with that, I would ask for your sustaining vote. I would hope you would vote for this. Thank you very much for your time.
The roll call shows 49 aye, 21 nay. House Bill number 1 has passed the House and will be transmitted to the Senate.
It's been moved by Senator Jordan and seconded by Senator Johnson that House Bill 1 be sent to the Senate floor with a due pass recommendation. Is there any more discussion? Discussion. Seeing none, Senator Sousa.
Thank you. Madam Chairman, committee, I have grappled with this bill for several weeks now and have done a great deal of research. I don't like parts of it at all. I feel that it is an overreach in many ways, but I do think that it has merits in terms of continuing without disruption, the system that we have in place for child support right now. I do believe that if this bill did not pass, we would make sure that child support would continue uninterrupted, but it would take some organization. I'm willing to support this bill, but I am still uncomfortable with parts of it. So with that, that is I wanted to just express my concerns.
Thank you, Senator Sousa. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, we will be voting. Those in favor of sending House Bill 1 to the Senate floor with a due pass recommendation signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries.
So, this convention was confirmed by the United States Senate by at least the 2/3 required vote, and under the United States Constitution, that was enough to bind the United States of America to the treaty and make it the law of the land. But the United States of America made the decision that it would withdraw from the convention if one of the states or more did not sign on to the uniform amendments that are before you today in House Bill 1. An Idaho court cannot exercise jurisdiction only when the foreign jurisdiction is the home place, or there is a challenge to our jurisdiction and it is timely, and an Idaho court makes that decision. We have successfully participated in international support enforcement up to this point with less protections than are given to us in this bill. We have done that on a bilateral basis. This bill provides a framework for broader cooperation with other countries, provides more protection while supporting and defending our constitutional and statutory rights.
So I can't vote to pass a bill this complicated, this complex, this unclear, a threat to our states' and nations' autonomy, and just for the sake of efficiency. If we pass this bill, will we compromise our freedom and the very freedom of the children and parents we are actually trying to help?
If my dear wife, Marion, walked into our bedroom with a big bowl of vanilla ice cream with chocolate sauce on it and strawberries and said to me, "Bart, you must eat it," I would instantly say within myself and out loud, "I don't like being told to do anything." And my mother said, "I'd come up with a better example than that." And with all due respect to those who imagine this a series of international courts that are going to be reaching in and pulling the judicial and policy strings of the state of Idaho, the act says that Idaho gets to look at their process. We judge the process. We don't judge the judgment, we judge the process. And if that process is manifestly similar, it has fundamental notions of due process, it has the minimum context standards for jurisdiction, it wasn't entered by fraud, and the other litany of options that are available, then and only then can Idaho entertain the enforcement of the decision. If, however, an Idaho court says it is not there, then Idaho says no. What sounds pretty fair to me.
So when you get beat up because you're the one that stood up for what you believed in, when you're the one that gets your cage rattled because you were willing to say, "Hey, I have some questions. I want some answers before I vote on something," because this deals with the federal government. This deals with how they treat the states and how we interact with the states. I really don't want you to feel bad about it. And I don't want you to feel bad about the fact that you're maybe portrayed as the only body in the whole country of 50 states that's ever had any pushback about the federal government. Our founding fathers had it. It was their greatest fear. And I just commend each one of you.
Roll call shows 33 ayes, 2 nays, no absence excused. Majority having voted affirmative. House Bill 1 is passed the Senate. The correction title. Hearing none, title is approved. House Bill 1 will be returned to the House.
The discourse in establishing public policy is not always pretty, and it has a tendency to raise the anger and the passions. But it doesn't help when we don't always refer to those opportunities or to those debates in a gentlemanly and a ladylike way. And where it broke down a time or two yesterday, I would be the first to apologize for those people, because we're better than that here in Idaho. We can disagree, but that doesn't excuse our responsibility to do that in a constructive way. And I think that constructive way broke down a time or two yesterday.
I just thought I'd share the last line of this email I got this morning. It says, "You shall be spurned and scorned all your days for your undermining and disloyalty to the Constitution." My thanks also has to go to the legislature. Legislators who overwhelmingly saw that the accusations that were being made and are still being made are bogus. We did not compromise our state sovereignty. We did not neglect due process. We did not breach confidentiality. We did not abandon our beloved Constitution, either at the state level or at the federal level. We did a good thing yesterday. We did a good thing.